I got a brand new Windows PC to replace an outgoing PC. Let's talk about it. Hello again, welcome to Rusty Brown Photography. I am Rusty, so glad you guys are here. I am going to be replacing my tried and true existing Windows-based PC with a new Windows-based PC, and I'm going to capture it here. Over the course of the video, as I replace this, I'm going to talk about what it is I'm replacing, what its capabilities are. I'm going to show you and talk about the new PC, what it is, its capabilities. I'm going to talk about why, and I'm going to talk about the cost associated with it. As the current PC goes, the one that I'm about to pull out of here in the next few minutes, it's a CLX gaming PC circa 2018 workhorse. It's really been doing a good job to the extent that it's doing the best it can, right, in 2025. Custom built gaming PC with 6 cores, 250 gigabyte SSD internal, and a 3 terabyte HDD internal, 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has as a GPU, it's got an NVIDIA GeForce 1080, which has 8 gigabyte of onboard RAM on the GPU. It is liquid cooled with 5 additional internal fans. Has RGB coloring, a smoked glass case, so it's very aesthetically pleasing. And we have 2 27-inch Dell monitors that are going to be getting replaced. You can see one of them, the other one is off screen. They're both Dell 27s. One of the things that I'm going to be doing as part of the restructure is trying to get more desk real estate back and see if I can't dual purpose some things. Like the one reference monitor that I have, the BenQ Reference Monitor, which is on the Mac Pro workstation behind me. Right now, it's only used on the Mac Pro for the printing station, but once I do the new upgrade, my plan is to replace which way is it? It looks like I have it looks like a pirate. What is that right here? Yeah, it looks like the osprey's on my shoulder. The screen with the osprey on it, this one, right, it's a smart TV. That's really all it is. It's a smart TV that is connected to this Windows-based PC. It's used primarily as a return monitor when I'm doing Microsoft Teams and Zoom style meetings. What I'm going to attempt to do as part of the restructure is when I move the BenQ Reference Monitor so that I can use it for both the PC and the Mac Pro. So outside of using that smart TV as a return monitor for video conferencing, I just do streaming on it. It is not 4K. The reference monitor that we talked about, the BenQ, is 4K. The 2 monitors that are coming out are both 2K, 2160 by 1440. So they're coming out so that when I get done with the rebuild, all of my monitors will be 4K, and the smart TV should be out, and that functionality is going to be done with the BenQ Reference Monitor. I'm going to show you a little BTS of the entire office and what the layout is, so that hopefully as I remove this and replace it, it'll give you a better understanding of where it fits in the larger office and what its functionality is going to be. So let's take a quick look at my home office. So if I take a look down the long wall and just pan around to the right, you'll see the area that we're going to be working with today, specifically that area on the right. Let me move that chair out the way and walk you through what we have. This is a wide shot of the workstation. It's basically an L-shaped workstation with about 65% of it on the right, 25% on the left, and 10% in the middle. Bottom right, you'll see the CLX, the white machine. That's the one that's getting replaced. 2 external drives with the yellow tabs on them. Those are both 8 terabyte tabs. those are both 8 terabyte external drives. Those will be removed as well. So what we're going to be doing today is replacing the 2 monitors, replacing the CLX on the bottom. I'm going to take the BenQ Reference Monitor over on the left, stick that in the middle, and dual purpose it. All right, now you know everything that's in the office and what the layout is. Got a lot of work to do, so let's get going on shutting everything down. Everything has already been backed up multiple times, by the way. We're going to shut all this down, pull it out, do the unboxing of the new gear, bring it upstairs, put it in, and then we'll come back and talk about the new system. All right, let's get to it. There you have it. It seems like that was a fairly short amount of time. It wasn't. It's literally 2 weeks later right now from the time that I started the video. But that was basically a condensed version of what I did since the last time that we talked. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you about the new machine, and then I'm going to show you the components of that machine, hence the handy dandy coach's clipboard. So what I have now is a CLX Horus AMD Ryzen 9950X 4.3 gigahertz machine. It has 96 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, a 2 terabyte SSD internal, also an 8 terabyte HDD also internal, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5080 GPU with another 16 gigabytes of GDDR7 RAM on the card, 16 cores. 16 cores. Remember that we're going to have to talk about that in a second. It is liquid cooled. It has 9 USB ports of various types. It weighs in at 75 pounds. It has 8 internal RGB colored fans that can be programmed or changed. The colors can be changed. The speed of the fans can be changed as well. It comes with a handy dandy remote control just for that. I also have 2 new monitors. Specifically, I've got 2 ViewSonic VX3267U 4K UHD 32-inch IPS monitors. Like I said before, everything that I'm talking about on the new side will be in the description below with links to those items. Outside of that, I changed my external drive configuration. So on the old system, I had 2 8 terabyte externals that weren't that old, like I'd say about 5 years old, but I also had a 5 terabyte that had to be over 10 years old. So I pulled all of those, and I now have one 16 terabyte HDD that's a little faster than those 2 8s and actually a little bit smaller than they were by Western Digital. And I've also added a 4 terabyte SanDisk external. So I'm not talking about the portable ones. I'm not talking about the ones that you carry in your camera bag and you go to shoots. This has an AC power connection and it's designed to be sitting just on the desk. Didn't think I needed it, but I wanted to have it just in case. So that gives me a total of 20 terabytes on the external, 10 terabytes internal. So if you take a look here, what you see here is, so on this side, on the left side of the screen, you see the Mac Pro workstation. So that's a Mac Pro with a professional printer on it. I have moved the BenQ Reference Monitor, which is a 32-inch 4K monitor, from its original location on the side of the printer. I've actually moved it to the center of the L-shaped desk. That BenQ is replacing the smart TV that I told you about a little bit earlier, but the Mac Pro is still connected to the 32-inch BenQ reference monitor. It just sits in the center right now. The new PC has a direct connect to the BenQ also, which I wasn't doing before. And as you can see, like in this example, I do my streaming from it, right? I log into my Xfinity service and I can stream anything that's in the lineup right here, which is something I used to do from the Mac Pro. Now I'm doing that from the new PC and it looks pretty good. When I'm not streaming, and as I'll show you here, I just use this as what I call Monitor 3. So it is an extension of my desktop. So you got the 2 ViewSonics that are going to be the primary 1 and 2, and occasionally when I need a third monitor, I'll use Monitor 3 when it's not streaming. The Blu-ray player is also directly connected to the BenQ 32-inch reference monitor. The Blu-ray player in the prior configuration was connected to the smart TV, but now connecting it to a 4K monitor that is actually a reference monitor and has the color gamut that the BenQ has is proving really nice as you look at some of these clips and cuts from, Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker. The refresh rate is really good. The color reproduction is excellent. The main reason that I have a Blu-ray player here isn't so much that I watch a lot of movies here. If I'm going to watch movies, for the most part, I'm doing that, downstairs in the screening room. But having that player here allows me to wind down sometimes after a lot of editing and processing and stuff. I may want to just throw in some DVDs of one of my favorite TV shows, have a seat here on the sofa, and either watch them or fall asleep watching them. After removing the old PC, I had to connect the new machine. The external 4K webcams, there's 2 of them. I think we talked about those before. The one directly behind me you see is the Poly Studio, and then I have one off to my left that is the Poly P15. I had to connect the podcast microphone, a couple other USB devices, the new monitors that I told you about, the McAfee for Business, which is what I use for virus protection and things like that on the PC. I had to reestablish all of the Adobe apps because I'm in the Adobe ecosystem. The one that took the longest amount of time was Lightroom Classic, not because I didn't have the catalog. I did have the catalog. I saved all the catalogs. But even with that, after moving all the data, and I'm going to talk about that in just a sec, over to the production drive that is now the 8 terabyte drive inside, I had to tell the catalog where those images were. Now, thankfully, I didn't have to do it one at a time, but I did have to do it folder by folder. So if you can imagine, the catalog comes up, it shows the thumbnails of the pictures that are supposed to be there, and it's got an exclamation point because it can't find it. So at each folder, I would have to right-click it, point it to its new location, and once it found that folder, everything would come up where it had to be. Photoshop didn't take long. Premiere Pro, which I'm using right now, didn't take long. Audition didn't take long. Lightroom Classic took the longest because I have a very expansive library of photographs. So I had to take care of all of that. I had to reload my license key for Microsoft Office Pro, which I use regularly, which also meant I had to do the same thing for all of my Exchange accounts, my Exchange emails. I have 5? Yes, 5 Exchange accounts, 5 different Exchange accounts, so I had to get those set up. I had to do PolyLens, which is the software management system to drive the 2 4K webcams. Camtasia, which is a really good program that I use to do screen capture, for video. I moved from the old external, those old externals I talked to you about, to the new 16 terabyte external and the 8 terabyte internal that I have now started calling the production. And I had to move 6 terabytes of data to the 16 terabyte external and 3 terabytes of data to the 8 terabyte internal. And then I took 5 days of just regular normal use of the machine. I wanted to make sure that everything functioned properly, that I didn't have any issues getting to the files. The next thing that I want to tell you about is why I felt I had to get a new machine and had to get a new machine at this time. And primarily it's really 2 reasons. I needed more cores for my video work and I needed more RAM for my photography. So the cores help me render faster. So the old machine had 6 cores and it could do a decent job, but that 2018 machine would fly on a 1080p render, but was a little slow with 4K. But what I noticed around 2022, maybe 2023, that the complexity of the videos that I shoot and produce was greater. So they're not so vanilla anymore. If I go out on a trip, like a golf trip, for example, for 4 days, and I'm going to capture that, that means that there's 5 to 7 action cameras, all 4K. There's one of the mirrorless cameras that's also 4K. So if you can imagine, every day a different action cam goes, gets installed in a golf cart, a couple are on sticks. So I'm gathering all this footage from that 4-day event, and then when I get it back here to do the processing, the amount of B-roll that I had, it was stacked on top of B-roll, on top of B-roll, on top of B-roll, all 4K. And I noticed that on the older CLX machine, it would take a while. It was no longer vanilla. That's what I mean by the complexity. It wasn't the machine's fault that I was using a 2018 machine, and now in 22 and 23 and even now, if I shoot a big enough project, there's just a lot of source footage and all of it is 4K. So the more B-roll that I was rolling into an effort, the longer it took to render. So 16 cores is going to be extremely helpful to me because, like I say, 6 cores on that old machine, and the Mac Pro, this expensive machine, has 10 cores, which is nice, right? 4 more than the other, but not enough to do the type of video processing that I'm doing. So the second reason that I had to get a machine, like I talked about, is the RAM for photo editing. And what I mean by that is, in 2018, AI didn't exist. Well, it exists now. And even the simplest of AI actions requires a back and forth connection, communication, if you will, in my case, to Adobe, back to the machine over the internet. That series of me giving it the description of what I want and it sending me samples really tags the RAM significantly. And the 32 gigabytes of RAM was fine for the most part, but if you give your AI a description of something that you want, I'll say, you tell it you want to get a funky colored fountain pen. Great, and this is what you want. And then after you type it in and it says it, you end up getting that funky colored fountain pen, but it's blue. You thought you were getting this funky red right here, but you didn't. So now you have to refine your command and say, I didn't want blue, I want something that's more of this reddish yellow hue. And it would take that command and stack it on top of the first one, and then it would ultimately give you the color that you want. But the stacking of those requests is eating up a ton of your random access memory. So I found that if I edited a lot, by that I mean a lot of different images over, say, a 2 to 3 hour period, the old CLX will get slower and slower and slower because those stacks weren't going away. And at one point in time, I had to basically, reboot the machine to clear out the RAM to pick up the process. And that's when I recognized that, the use of AI is very RAM intensive. And I don't think I use a lot of AI. I'm going to give you a sample now of exactly what that means. So if we take a look at this example here, you look at this dinosaur in New York City, and I had some changes I wanted to do. So up at the top left by the arrow, you see the generative AI dialog box. I need to get rid of the people at the bottom right, the tourists, and I need to extend that platform so it looks like the dinosaur is surrounded by foliage. So this is what you would do in generative AI. I draw around what I want. I have trained my AI so much that when I go up here to the generative fill box, I don't even tell it what I want to do. I just click on generate, and I've done it enough that it knows that I want the foliage to extend and the people to be gone. So you see that AI is thinking. This is a live internet connection right now going to the RAM. You look at the bottom right, and those are the first changes. Over on the right side, you see these three options. Not bad. This one looks a little better than the first. You click on the third one. That's not bad either, but it's not exactly what I want. So when I talked about stacking, that means that I'm going to say generate that again. I'm not going to retype the command. I'm just going to click generate right here where the yellow arrow is. And then again, you'll see at the top and at the right, it's thinking. But you notice it put those three circle boxes on top of the ones we just did. That's what's eating up the RAM. So now we got some new choices. And the first one is not bad, right? I've circled all three in red. You look at the second one, I like that a little bit better. Let's take a look at the third. And I don't like it as much because it still shows sidewalk. So ultimately, I select the second. So that's one piece. You saw me do two stacks there. Now, if I zoom in and look at the bottom left, you'll notice that there's some other people on this side of the dinosaur. So we're going to do the exact same exercise again where you see this red arrow. You know, if I zoom out a little bit, you'll notice that I can draw around those people, right? Now keep in mind, I want you to watch a couple things. You see the 6 options on the right from the last exercise. Watch as I draw around here and I go up to the top again, and I'm just going to tell it, you know, to generate. Now watch what happens on the right. Those 6 boxes went away. We got 3 new boxes, and it's telling you what the time progress is across the top. Watch the people on the bottom left. You'll notice that ultimately they too will go away, and you have 3 new choices over on the right. The first one is automatically selected. Let's click on the second one. That's not bad, looks good. We look at the third one. Also not bad. So now you have 3 choices that you can look at. Now the entire picture looks pretty good. I'm going to settle for the second one at this point in time, and then I'll show you what the final image looks like. So if you take a look at this image right here, you'll notice that this is the final picture of, we'll call him Dino. It's a very simple edit, and it just used 2 generative AI commands, but that really taxed the RAM. So imagine if you did a much bigger shoot and you had to do some form of AI touching, as it were. If you only have 32 gigabytes of RAM in 2025, 2026, it's not going to be able to keep up, or you're going to have to be resetting your RAM far too frequently. So those are the 2 main reasons that I felt it was time to get a new machine. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the actual cost. And again, I'll have links to all of this in the description below. So the CLX AMD Ryzen 9950X cost me $3,729. I believe I got it in June. It just took me a while to put it online. And I got it on sale. If you look today, and as we're going into August, it's $3,900. So I got it for about $200 less. The ViewSonic VX3267U 4K UHD IPS monitors were $366 each, for a whopping total of $732 for 2 monitors, which is really good because that's the exact same price that the big BenQ behind me cost, 2 years ago? 2023. The Western Digital that I told you about, the 16 terabyte external HDD, cost $209 when I bought it. Black Friday, side note, is typically when I buy extra drives and stuff like that. I don't know why, but Amazon and B&H both do an amazing job on Black Friday to Cyber Monday. I'll buy them even if I don't necessarily need them. So this 16 terabyte drive I actually bought on sale for $209 back on Black Friday. Today, it costs $256. And the SanDisk 4 terabyte that I showed you came in at $290. But now if I do a side-by-side comparison of the BenQ, which is still $700 today, right, at B&H, and the ViewSonic, here I'm gonna look at 3 areas, and these are the things that I found important. First was the nits, right? So the BenQ, you know, nits speaking to, you know, brightness and how bright that the screen can get. The BenQ has 350 nits, which is really good. The ViewSonic has 300. Not quite as much, but enough for the type of work that I do. You go to the contrast ratio, however, the BenQ has a 1000-to-1 contrast ratio, which is really good. The ViewSonic, 1300-to-1 contrast ratio. And then in the last consideration, I should say, that I had is that the BenQ has a wider color gamut, meaning it will match more of the Adobe RGB and sRGB colors than damn near anything out there. It doesn't miss. But the ViewSonic has a wider viewing angle and better color accuracy. And that last one is extremely important to me, because the last thing I want to do is like, okay, so I calibrate my monitors, but if it doesn't have color accuracy and you calibrate it and it's wrong and it looks good to you, but you go to print it and you're stuck with, why do I see these yellow hues, or why do I see more vignetting than I do on here, or you post it on your website and it doesn't look the same to someone else. A lot of times it's because of the color accuracy of the machine that you have. And having an IPS monitor is important to me, because no matter where I sit in the office, it looks the same. If I go all the way on the side, I don't lose anything from a viewing perspective. I can still see that monitor, and I like that. So that had a lot to do with it. And again, the cost, $366 for one versus $700. They are both 32-inch. There's no bezel. When I tell you there's no bezel on the ViewSonic, it's nothing there, which I really, really like. Now, I am using all DisplayPort. And I talked to my buddy Dwayne about this to confirm something that I honestly didn't know. I really didn't know what the difference is between HDMI and DisplayPort. With this machine, there are 4 ports on the back of the GPU and 1 on the motherboard. And when I examined that, 3 of those 4 ports were DisplayPort and 1 was HDMI. And I'm like, okay, I've used DisplayPort before. In fact, on the old machine, I had a display to HDMI connection going from the old machine to the old smart TV. So after talking with Dwayne and doing some research, I found out that for this type of setup, DisplayPort is better, and it makes sense. That's probably why CLX gives you more DisplayPorts than anything else. And this is what I found out. The DisplayPort compared to HDMI has a higher bandwidth, higher resolution, and faster refresh rates. So HDMI is not bad by any stretch. But what I decided was, okay, I'm not going to use any HDMI in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So I'm using DisplayPort for monitor 1, DisplayPort for monitor 2, and DisplayPort for monitor 3, which is the old BenQ. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. It's been 7 years. It's definitely time for me to upgrade, while at the same time trying to make better use of my space and some of the things that I have. You may think that, you know, it's overkill in terms of the amount of disk space that I have, and you know how I feel about backups. I just think that for the amount of time that we put into what we do and the amount of time that we put in here after we do what we do, it would be a shame to lose that. And I still know someone who's he's just an amazing photographer, but his entire library of every photo that he has is on one of those little SanDisk SSDs. You know, and I have a couple of them. I carry them around in my bag when I'm on the road to transfer stuff from the memory card to that to get to my laptop. But I'm saying that this photographer, that's his sole source. So if that puppy craps out, or he loses it, or it drops, or somebody steps on it, his entire photography library is gone, which makes no sense to me. So I get it. I'm probably at the other end of that scale with 20 terabytes on the desktop. And when you also think about the backup system that I have in the house, which is, you know, on a separate part of the network, the offsite storage, it's peace of mind. You know, at some point you ask yourself, how much is your peace of mind worth relative to what you do in your photography career? I do appreciate you guys taking the time to rock with the channel. I know that you have a lot of things vying for your viewing time, and for you to take the time out to sit and support me and this channel, it means a lot to me, and I'm very appreciative of that. So until next time, be well. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks.